Chapter 1. At the College Reunion. My girlfriend of 6 years, drunk and egged on by the crowd, gave her ex-boyfriend a kiss. It was just a peck, but the room fell silent. Everyone was looking at me. To their surprise, I didn't react. Instead, I started clapping. Encore, give us another one. I still remember the look in my girlfriend Victoria Hayes' eyes, a mix of shock, confusion, and anger, as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Then, as sobriety hit, guilt and fear. Ethan and I are just friends, Victoria blurted out before I could even ask. A guy I was friendly with back in school leaned over and whispered, "Vicky, don't you think that's a bit much? I mean, Sincere's right here." Ethan Shaw was drunk too, and he was staring at me with a provocative smirk. The tension was thick. All the chatter had died down as everyone waited for my response. I just smiled. "Well, since the mood is right, why don't you two just get a room for the night?" Anyone could tell I was being sarcastic. Victoria was furious. Sincere, it was just a joke. "Do you have to be so sensitive? Besides," she continued, "Ethan and I broke up years ago. I've told you 1,000,000 times. I'm the only friend he has left in this city. If something was going to happen between us, it would have happened a long time ago. Can't you just be a little more understanding?" Ethan just laughed. "Relax, Sincere wouldn't be that petty. Right, Sincere?" Everyone looked uncomfortable watching Victoria lecture me in front of the whole party. It was clear she was angry at my completely unexpected and, in her eyes, unreasonable reaction. I could see it in her face. She was already gearing up for the fight we'd have when we got home. If this had been the old me, I would have exploded right then and there, demanding an explanation from her in front of everyone. She was used to that. Every time I had one of my near hysterical outbursts, she would respond with icy indifference. Later, she'd throw a few sweet nothings my way, give me an out, and like an idiot, I'd choose to forget the whole thing. I've lost count of how many times we've fought over her and her ex-boyfriend, Ethan. The worst time, I flipped the coffee table, sending fruit and everything else crashing to the floor. After every fight came a long, cold silence. I was developing a complex, and every single time the Cold War would end with me surrendering. In this marathon of a relationship I loved too deeply, and my position was too low. From the very beginning, we were never equals. Victoria Hayes was stunningly beautiful. She was our class's it girl, and as far as I could remember, she never lacked for admirers. Freshman year, some dramatic kid, copying a video he saw online, arranged a giant heart of candles below her dorm window. He stood there holding a bouquet of flowers and declaring his love through a megaphone. He even got the dean's attention. But this woman, this goddess in my eyes, somehow ended up as my girlfriend. A nobody like me. My best friends were endlessly envious. One of them even joked that I should have Victoria scream his name when we were getting intimate. What could I do? Victoria was just that popular. It filled me with anxiety. I was terrified that one day someone would steal her away. So I did everything I could to be good to her, sharing every little detail of my day. A cute stray cat, a beautifully made ice cream cone, a strange-looking piece of fruit. Every interesting little thing in my life. I couldn't wait to tell her about it. But the response was always the same 2 words, how boring. Even so, my enthusiasm never waned. I'd offer a warm heart only to be met with a cold shoulder, and I'd just keep trying. I thought if I gave her everything, if I humbled myself completely, I could win her over with what little romance I had left. We both just got used to it. "Sincere?" After a moment of dead silence, Victoria called my name, her voice tentative. She probably realized she'd gone too far. "Yeah?" I said, looking at the woman who was once my goddess, my love, the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. My voice was so calm and detached it even surprised me. "I'll explain when we get home," she said. In her eyes, this was just a small thing, something I had no right to use as an excuse to be angry. Chapter 2, I waved a hand dismissively. "It's fine. I'm used to it by now anyway." Victoria didn't say anything else to me. Instead, she turned back to Ethan, chatting and laughing warmly as if I wasn't even there. They reminisced about old times, and Victoria would let out little giggles, right in front of me. They even jokingly linked arms for a toast. Everyone was giving me strange looks, a mix of contempt, pity, and schadenfreude. How long had it been since Victoria had been that warm with me? I couldn't even remember. If they ended up getting a room tonight, I wouldn't even be surprised. It felt like Victoria and Ethan were the real couple. They always used the excuse of being just friends to engage in behavior that was far too intimate for friends. The only difference was that before, they were more discreet, limiting it to overly familiar messages. They kept pushing my boundaries bit by bit, until now, with physical contact and tonight's quick kiss, fueled by alcohol and the party atmosphere. "You guys have fun. I'm heading out. I've got work in the morning." I smiled, grabbed my cigarettes, and left, feeling remarkably calm. Everyone just stared at each other. As I left the private room, I heard one of the girls behind me complaining that I couldn't take a joke. I didn't care anymore. I couldn't be bothered. I'm generally a good-natured person, not one to lose my temper. I can chat with just about anyone, make friends with anyone. But in the past, whenever Ethan was around, I'd anxiously stick around until the very end. I'd seen it online. Even if it hadn't happened to me, the minute the ex starts crying, the current boyfriend is finished. I stepped outside and stood by the restaurant entrance, smoking. The feeling of the smoke filling my lungs was satisfying, and my mind was clearer than it had been in years. When did it start? I was just tired. And I suddenly realized I didn't love Victoria anymore. I went back to the apartment we rented together. It was over $1,500 a month, a two-bedroom place that we had decorated together. In my eyes, it was our home. I loved it. I mindlessly scrolled through TikTok and dozed off on the sofa. About 2 hours later, I sensed her footsteps as she opened the door. I didn't have to look to know she was drunk, just like always. She called my name. She was used to it. No matter how drunk she got or how late she stayed out, she could always come home to my meticulous care. A plate of cut fruit, her favorite hangover-curing fruit tea, a basin of steaming hot water to soak her feet. I used to have to refill the hot water multiple times to keep it at the perfect temperature for when she got back. But not tonight. There was nothing. I pretended to be sound asleep and didn't answer her. "Sincere?" Victoria called my name again. She was sharp enough to sense that something was off tonight. Back at the restaurant, I could tell from the way she looked at me that she was ready for my usual outburst. But this time, she guessed wrong. I had faced her and Ethan with calm. I had walked out of that room with calm. I had hailed a cab and come home with calm. The apartment was silent. After a few minutes, she kicked off her high heels and lay down on the other sofa. Without me to prepare everything for her, she'd rather sleep on the couch. The next morning, when Victoria woke up, I was already on the sofa, preparing my report for today's meeting. Just like last night, there was no loving breakfast this morning. No perfectly cooked sunny-side-up egg which she loved with a runny yolk. No glass of milk poured for her. "You're awake?" I asked. "I drank too much last night," she said. "Ethan drove me home. Good thing there were no DUI checkpoints, or you might not have seen me until the end of the year." She was telling one of her terrible jokes. It was her way of blaming me for leaving her at the restaurant last night. It wasn't that she cared about me, it was that I hadn't given her the princess treatment she was accustomed to. "Oh, tell Ethan not to drink and drive next time." I stood up and expertly tied my own tie. It occurred to me that in 7 years, she had only tied it for me a few times right at the beginning. For the last 6 or 7 years, I'd done it myself. I wasn't being petty or nitpicking. It's just that, to me, a woman tying a man's tie was a sign that she cared. "Ethan broke up with his girlfriend," she said, rubbing her forehead. "He told me last night. He wants me to go out for dinner and drinks with him tonight, to keep him company. He said he doesn't have many friends in this city. Besides me, he couldn't think of anyone else to call. Her hangover was clearly bad. If my reaction last night had surprised her, my reaction this morning was about to shock her. I just nodded. "Okay, be back early." Then I opened the door and walked out. "Aren't you going to stop me?" An angry voice called out from behind me. When I turned, I saw Victoria standing in the living room, her face a mask of utter disbelief. Chapter 3. I was working late at the office that night. At 6 o'clock sharp, I got a photo from Victoria. It was her and Ethan at a restaurant. I was surprised. She never would have dared to send me something like this before. It was always me who had to drag the truth out of her, backing her into a corner, until she reluctantly confessed everything. I used to go crazy. At one point it got so bad I developed an anxiety disorder and had to take sleeping pills just to get to sleep. The mere mention of Ethan's name would make my heart pound and a cold sweat break out all over my body. I felt like Ethan Shaw was my kryptonite, my personal demon. But this time, I felt a calm I'd never experienced before. It was like looking at a picture of a casual friend out to dinner with their friend. "Okay, I'm working late," I texted back. She didn't reply. In the photo, Ethan looked haggard. Maybe he really did just break up with someone. That thought only lasted a few minutes before I was back to my work. I realized something. I didn't care about Victoria anymore. I didn't care about her mood, whether she'd eaten, or if she'd slept well. I didn't care where she was, who she was talking to, or what they were saying. Had she added some guy's number on WhatsApp? Had Ethan contacted her? What should I make for dinner tonight? What dessert should I buy? Should I stock the fridge with beer, soda, fruit? Oh my God, I only just realized that I used to spend every single day consumed by these meaningless questions. Victoria didn't come home that night. In the past, I would have frantically called her, then called all her friends. If I couldn't find her, I would have called the police. I wouldn't have been able to sleep all night. Once, she stayed out all night and I was a complete wreck. I felt just like that viral video on TikTok, the poor guy offering a reward for anyone who could find which hotel his girlfriend was staying at. A total simp. I called the police. They found her at her best friend's place. When she came back, we had a massive fight. That was the time I was so hurt I flipped the coffee table, the one she insisted we buy for over $1,200. That Cold War lasted for half a month. I was the one who apologized. I remember her looking at me with a cold expression. "You flipped the coffee table this time. Next time, will you be hitting me?" I knelt on the floor and swore I never would. I was so in love with her, it was in my bones. I would go crazy without her. I slapped my own face over and over. I desperately explained that I would jump off a building for her, that I would die before I ever laid a hand on her. I was a mess back then. Because of that incident, Victoria confessed that she had thought about leaving me several times. She said I loved her too much, that I was becoming unhinged, and she was afraid I might actually kill her. I could only smile bitterly at the memory. Yeah, I was such an idiot. We're all adults. Who are you putting on a show for? It never happened again. That night, Victoria didn't come home. I didn't call her. I didn't call the police. I just washed up, scrolled through my phone, and went to sleep. It was a kind of sleep I hadn't had in a long time. Deep, peaceful. There was no torment of overthinking, no vague sense of dread. My obsession had drained me of all energy, even for physical intimacy. I was only just realizing how exhausting my life had been. The next day, we both went to work. We ran into each other around 8 in the morning. Victoria took the initiative to explain. "I drank too much with Ethan last night, so I slept at my friend Vivian's place." Vivian Reed was on good terms with Ethan. They had dated for a while in college. They both ended up staying in this city, and Vivian had helped Ethan find an apartment to rent in her complex. So, Vivian and Ethan lived in the same building. I just nodded. "Oh, okay." Then there was silence, a dead silence that lasted for 3 or 4 minutes. Victoria finally nodded back. Right. Sometime, somehow, we had run out of things to say to each other. Just after I left the apartment complex, I received a message on WhatsApp. It was from Ethan. It was a single photo. In it, Victoria was lying in bed, asleep. From the angle it was taken, it was obvious. Victoria and Ethan had slept together. Chapter 4. No text, just the photo. I had added Ethan on WhatsApp a long time ago just to keep tabs on Victoria's whereabouts. This time my heart finally stirred. I didn't reply. I turned off my phone, waited for the express bus to my office as usual, got on, and closed my eyes to rest. On the way to work, not a single thought of anger or rage about the photo crossed my mind. It was just numbness. What did surprise me was that half an hour after I got to the office, Victoria showed up. Her face was a mess of panic, guilt, and fear. I knew. Ethan must have told her he'd sent me the picture. He was trying to drive a wedge between us, to make us fight, to make me break up with her. He was still hung up on her. He was a cunning, calculating person. I'd seen that back in college. "Sincere, can you come out here for a second?" Her voice held a pleading tone I had never heard before. I calmly stood up and followed her to the fire escape. We stood there in silence, on the landing. She was the first to break the silence. I was drunk. Ethan said he'd take me home, but somehow he took me to his place instead. Nothing happened between us. I pushed him away. "So you're saying you still spent the night at Ethan's place?" "I didn't sleep, I swear I didn't sleep." "Oh." "I know you didn't sleep." "No, Sincere. What I mean is, I sat on the sofa, wide awake all night." I looked at her. "What does that have to do with me? Didn't you say you were staying at your friend's place?" Weren't you the one who always complained that I never gave you any freedom? You called me childish, said I was always overthinking things. Well, I'm not childish anymore. I'm not overthinking. And I'm certainly not going to control who you're with or what you do. You should be happy you're finally free in this relationship. No one's holding you back, just like you always wanted. Victoria froze. Then she got angry. After spending the night with Ethan, she had come to me to explain, to offer me an olive branch, and I hadn't taken it. So she pulled out her trump card. Let's both be angry, because in the end, right or wrong, you're always the one who comes crawling back to me. Sincere, can you stop being so childish? I don't have feelings for Ethan anymore. We're just friends. Nothing more than friends. I impatiently waved my hand, cutting her off. Vicky, I have to work late tonight. There's nothing to explain. I'm not mad, and I never said I didn't believe you, did I? I have to get back to work. I left her standing there and went back to my desk, burying my head in my meeting notes. My colleague David leaned over and whispered, "Old Miller, you look exhausted. Take my advice, you and that Victoria girl aren't right for each other. Seriously. The prettier the woman, the more flies she attracts. You can't guard her forever. Haven't you seen the news? Even the internet's favorite heartthrob got played like a simp. And you? Do you have money or the looks?" In the past, I would have argued with him, maybe even held a grudge and avoided him. This time, I listened, but I didn't say anything. I just smiled. Sometimes a man grows up in an instant. That evening, Victoria called. I didn't answer. 1 call, 2, 3. I finally picked up. "I'm outside your office. I'm here to pick you up. Let's go get dinner." "Sincere, I'm sorry. Even if nothing happened with Ethan, I shouldn't have lied to you." I said, "It's fine. I'm really not angry. I have to work late. You should go home. If you're tired, go to bed. Don't wait up for me." The only answer I got was the dial tone. She had hung up on me. She was mad. Half an hour later, I saw she had updated her social media. It was a photo. Victoria and Ethan out to dinner. After he had taken her to his place while she was drunk, and even sent me a photo of them in bed together, it took Victoria less than a day to forgive him. In the picture, a man's hand was holding a peeled shrimp. I recognized the watch on his wrist. It was Ethan's. The caption read, "You'll always be my safe place." I was supposed to be detached. But this time, I gripped my phone so tightly my whole body started to shake with rage. Chapter 5. Victoria was deliberately trying to provoke me, to force me to be the first one to back down. When I got home that night, the lights were off. She was sitting on the sofa, a solitary figure in the dark. "You're not asleep?" I asked, yawning. "I'm hungry." "Oh, you should order some takeout. You used to tell me that takeout is unhealthy, that the kitchens are filthy." "I'm tired." After that brief exchange, silence fell again. In the first year we were together, we could talk about anything and everything, all night long. In the beginning, Victoria was happy to share her day with me over text. We'd hold each other and talk about saving up enough to buy a house in the city and get married. At night, she'd cry out with passion, her responses fervent. Then, gradually, it turned into half-hearted replies, then resistance, and then it would be a week, half a month, without anything. The novelty had worn off for her. I was tired too, both physically and mentally, but taking care of her after work had become a habit. All the little details, the constant nurturing it was like an indispensable part of my life, etched into my DNA. "Sincere, you're being more and more dismissive of me. Is it because I got drunk and kissed Ethan that night? Or is it because I lied and said I was at my friend's place? I'm a little scared. Sincere. The way you are now, you feel like a stranger." She didn't mention today's events at all. In the darkness, I expertly pulled out a cigarette and lit it, taking a deep drag. "This is the life you always wanted, isn't it? Carefree." More silence. Even with the lights off, I could see the tension finally creeping onto Victoria's face. Was she finally starting to realize something? She suddenly changed the subject. "I bought some new lingerie. I bought it especially for you. I'm tired." I went into the spare room and closed the door. This was the room we'd prepared for friends or parents to stay over. Whenever we were in a Cold War and sleeping in separate rooms, this was where I'd end up. What was Victoria thinking out there in the living room? What was she doing? Was she on her phone, complaining to Ethan just like she did after every one of our fights, letting him comfort her? I didn't care. I didn't even think about it. It was an unprecedented feeling of relief. Sometimes love just vanishes in an instant. A love that intense can destroy a person from their mind to their body. But when you fall out of love, the coldness is so absolute it's terrifying, like you've become a different person. My love was like a full glass. Every day a little bit spilled out. One day I looked, and it was empty. No matter how you shake it, how you tilt it, it's gone. This cold, silent standoff lasted for 3 days. It was broken on the 4th night, when Victoria called me, begging me to come home after work instead of getting takeout at the office. She said she had a surprise for me. I froze. Not because of the surprise, but because I realized she must have come to my office, watching me from a distance. How else would she know that I'd been missing the company cafeteria and ordering takeout every night? My new attitude was starting to make her pay attention, but it was too late. It was far too late. I didn't love Victoria anymore. I knew that deep down I still couldn't completely let go, that I still cared. But when the love is gone, the decision to leave is an easy one. I opened the door to our apartment. Victoria was standing there wearing an apron. The dining table, which was usually covered in a thin layer of dust, was now laden with home-cooked dishes and a box of wine. Victoria's best friend, Vivian Reed, and Ethan Shaw were both there. When Ethan saw me, he stood up. "I'm sorry, old Miller," he said, handing me a cigarette. "I was drunk that night too. It was a moment of weakness, taking Vicky to my place and taking that photo." I didn't take the cigarette, nor did I smile at Vivian. I knew she had always looked down on me. Between me and Ethan, she clearly preferred him. How many times had Vivian covered for Victoria and Ethan? How many times did I know about? And how many did I not? How many could there have been? I'm just an ordinary guy. I say what I think, do what I want. An ordinary guy making $4,000 or $5,000 a month. How could I ever win against them? Vivian smiled and chimed in. "Yeah, old Miller, Vicky told me all about it. Come on, be a man. Sometimes you just have to be the bigger person." I finally understood. Victoria had brought them here to work on me one by one. To their astonishment, I just threw my hands up in resignation. I'm really not angry. This time, Victoria panicked. A kind of panic I had never seen in her before. A deep, soul-shaking panic. The look she gave me was almost one of fear. I thought for a moment, then turned to Ethan. I asked a question that left everyone in the room speechless. "So how was it? Is Victoria still as good in bed as she used to be?" The entire living room fell silent. Chapter 6. Before they came, Vivian and Ethan had probably prepared for every possible reaction from me. But they definitely didn't prepare for this. With one casual, utterly indifferent question, I shut down everything they were about to say. "Let's eat." "Victoria, I didn't know you could cook," I said, helping myself to the food. Ethan looked at me curiously. "Vicky's always been able to cook. Has she never cooked for you?" I could see the smugness in his eyes. Another point for him. I had lost again. A crushing defeat, as always. I was always comparing myself to Ethan, and he always came out on top. It made sense. From the day I started dating Victoria, I had taken care of everything: food, lodging, all of it. Maybe even when she wanted to contribute, my overeager enthusiasm shut her down. Who cares? The love was gone. What was the point in keeping score? "Sincere, don't talk nonsense." "Vicky and I are just friends now," Ethan said coldly. I nodded. "Oh, right. Friends who sleep in the same bed." To my surprise, Ethan lunged at me. No warning at all. I don't know what I said or did that finally set him off. Right there in the living room, in front of Victoria and Vivian, Ethan and I started brawling. He was a big guy, but he didn't have much strength. The man who threw the first punch ended up pinned to the floor by me. It was Victoria who pulled us apart. She stood in front of Ethan, shielding him, and screamed at me in a tone I had never heard before. "Sincere, are you out of your mind?" Then, to Ethan, "Ethan, are you okay?" I froze, forgetting about the blood trickling from my nose into my mouth. I just stared blankly as Victoria, her face etched with worry, pulled out tissues and gently wiped the blood from Ethan's face. In that moment, I was the aggressor, and Ethan was the victim. Suddenly, a profound quiet settled over me, a kind of calm I had never felt in all my 7 years with Victoria. Vivian and Ethan left. Victoria and I sat facing each other at the dining table. Only then did she seem to remember the blood on my face. She reached for a tissue to clean it up. I flinched away. "Sincere, something is seriously wrong with you," Victoria said, her voice like ice. "Haven't there been problems between us for a long time now? It's just that you didn't care back then, and I kept avoiding it. Only you could feel how much I loved you. I put up with everything. I cared too much. But a relationship has to go both ways. A person's heart is made of flesh and blood. It gets tired. It gets hurt. It feels pain. "Vicky, let's break up," I said with a smile. There was no weight to the words. They just came out, naturally, my tone perfectly even. Victoria froze on the spot. Her expression shifted from shock to confusion, then to bewilderment, and finally to utter panic. We just looked at each other. Several minutes passed. I was about to say something else, but Victoria cut me off, not giving me the chance. She shot up from her chair. "Sincere, let's get married. It's your birthday today." Victoria was struggling to keep her composure, her smile on the verge of collapsing. It was as if my words, "let's break up," had never been spoken. She brought out a cake. I hadn't even noticed it under the table earlier. I was too busy fighting Ethan. "You cut it. It's your 29th birthday, but I told the bakery to just put 18 candles. A man is a boy at heart. Forever 18, I didn't move." "I'll cut it then." "Ta-da. Look what this is, Sincere. I already bought our wedding rings. I've been planning for days to propose to you on your birthday. Sincere, I love you. Let's get married. I know I haven't been the best. I've been selfish and I've ignored your feelings. I've been so selfish in this relationship. I'm so lucky to have found you, to be your other half. It's my greatest honor. I'll change all my bad habits, believe me. I'll change everything. You don't want me to drink, I'll quit. You don't want me to see Ethan, I'll block his number, his WhatsApp, everything. Mr. Miller, will you marry me?" I remained silent. "Sincere, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have blamed you just now. I didn't mean to protect Ethan. I wasn't thinking about how you felt. I was wrong. I'm apologizing to you. Let me put the ring on you. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Sincere, I love you so much. I'll go crazy without you. Please, just say something. You're scaring me. I'm terrified." Tears were streaming down Victoria's face. She knelt in front of me, sobbing, gripping my hand tightly, trying to force the ring onto my finger. But I yanked my hand away. My one sentence, "let's break up," had shattered all her defenses. The force of it sent Victoria tumbling to the floor. I stood up, helped her to her feet, and wiped the tears from her face. "Vicky, let's break up. I'm so tired. So incredibly tired." "No, why? You get to be with me when you want and break up with me when you want." "What do you take me for?" Victoria shrieked, her voice raw. She threw her arms around me, holding on with all her strength. I let her, standing perfectly still. We're adults. We need to know when to hold on and when to let go. A graceful breakup can be a kind of romance too. You said that Victoria's voice was hoarse, her body trembling. "Sincere, I was wrong. I was really wrong. Nothing happened between me and Ethan that night, I swear. And just now I was just so emotional. I never thought Ethan would actually hit you, so she had seen it. She saw that Ethan was the one who threw the first punch, right at my nose. I said, whether something happened or not doesn't matter anymore. You haven't even noticed that for the past 6 months I haven't sent you a single proactive message, haven't called you frantically in the middle of the night, haven't tried to stop you from seeing Ethan." I broke free from her embrace. I went back to the room and calmly started packing my clothes. There wasn't much. In this home, I had so little of everything. Clothes, toiletries, emotional standing. I realized I didn't have much to pack. My suitcase was still half empty. From the living room I heard Victoria's heartbroken sobs. "Sincere, you bastard," Chapter 7. I had been planning to break up with Victoria for a while, so I had already found a new apartment. All I had to do was transfer the rent to the landlord, and I could move in that same night. Victoria stood in the doorway, her arms spread wide, blocking my path. "Sincere, I'm begging you, don't leave me alone. I'm scared of the dark. I'm scared of being lonely. I'm scared of a life without you." Her body was racked with sobs. I glanced at her. "But you have Ethan, don't you? I can't even remember how many times we fought, and you told me cold as ice that whenever you needed someone the most, whenever you were at your loneliest, it was Ethan who was there for you. Victoria, this really needs to end. I woke up from this dream 6 months ago. That night, I left for good." The relief was overwhelming. When I moved into my new place, I didn't think about Victoria once all night. I don't know if it's true what they say online, that the real pain of a breakup doesn't hit you for a couple of weeks. I don't know if I'll feel sad later, but I know I'm never going back. Every day after that, Victoria would show up at my office like clockwork. The whole company knew about it. My boss even had to talk to me a few times. She would cry and beg. A woman who cared so much about her pride was now doing the most humiliating things in public, stopping just short of getting on her knees. On the 5th day, I quit my job. I didn't even go in to clear out my desk. My colleague handled all the paperwork for me. Overnight, it was as if I had vanished from Victoria's world. We had almost no mutual friends. Even with Vivian and Ethan and all the years I'd known them, we'd exchanged fewer than 10 messages on WhatsApp. The day I quit, I blocked Vivian and Ethan. Just as my life no longer had anything to do with Victoria, her world no longer had anything to do with me. In the journey of life, we were just travelers who had briefly crossed paths. No debts owed, just a clean break, a quiet goodbye, each to their own journey. Finding a new job was hard. With the economy being what it was, I was out every day, from morning till night. But compared to the agony and pain of that relationship, this was nothing. It's like they say, if I had the strength to love you, I have the strength to bury that love. Just when I thought that after a few months of this, my world would finally be at peace, on the 10th day after the breakup, I came home exhausted after a long day of sending out resumes and waiting for calls that would likely never come. And there she was. Victoria was sitting on the planter outside my building. In front of her was a case of beer. She was already completely wasted. Sincere, the moment she saw me, her eyes lit up. She stumbled towards me, crying, trying to throw her arms around me. I sidestepped, and she fell to the ground. Without a moment's hesitation, she scrambled back up and tried to hug me again. "Are you a child?" I yelled. "Victoria, you were always so proud, so concerned with appearances. You're a grown woman. Do you have any idea what you're doing?" The roles were reversed. Only now did I understand how terrifying I must have seemed to her back then, when I knelt on the floor, trying to prove my love by threatening to jump out a window. Victoria broke down. She was like a little kid who had done something wrong and was desperate for forgiveness. There on the street, under the curious gazes of passers-by, she began to wail. "Sincere, I really know I was wrong. I was so selfish in our relationship. Now that I've lost you, I'm terrified. I can't sleep at night. I can't live without you. I love you. Please, let's get back together. You've punished me enough. I know I was wrong. It was a joke that went too far. I can't take it anymore." I just looked at her, my expression cold. Whose idea was this? Victoria stood there, tears streaming down her face. She didn't seem to understand my question. "No one's. This is all from my heart. I'm not lying to you. Why won't you give me a chance, not even a chance to change? Is it because I was so close to Ethan? I can delete all his contact information right here in front of you." I sighed. "I mean, who told you to sit outside my building and get drunk? And how did you find my new address? There was a time when I loved this woman with every fiber of my being, when I wanted to be with her 24 hours a day. Now, I was desperate to escape her." Victoria wiped her tears with the back of her hand and said between sobs, "I went to your office. That colleague you were close with told me you quit. I got your new address from him. You mentioned it to him once, in passing. You told him you were thinking of moving here. As for the drinking, it was Ethan's idea. Ethan Shaw. It was always Ethan Shaw. It was as if he was the one I was in a relationship with. Back in the day, whenever Ethan wanted to see Victoria, wasn't this his go-to method? Drinking. It worked every time. The place he held in her heart was something I had envied countless times. That handsome man with his big deer-like eyes was a natural with women. In college, he was the object of every guy's jealousy. It seemed like his type never had a shortage of girlfriends. He reappeared in our lives 3 years after he and Victoria broke up. By then, Victoria and I had already been together for 2 years. How wonderful. Finally, I didn't have to live in constant fear and uncertainty anymore. I grabbed Victoria's shoulders. "Victoria, we're adults. To love someone else, you have to first learn to love yourself. You were the one who taught me that. Look at yourself now. What have you become? Where is that confident, vibrant campus belle?" I shook her frantically. She just kept crying, on and on. The crowd of onlookers was starting to point and whisper. To an outsider who didn't know the full story, seeing the pitiful state Victoria was in, who would care about anything else? Before they could start their verbal assault on me, I let go of Victoria and went back to my apartment. "Sincere, I'm not giving up," she screamed from downstairs, her voice trembling. She didn't leave that night. She changed into a wedding dress in her car and spent the night drinking beer on the street. I became famous in my new neighborhood. Chapter 8. I didn't have the savings to find another place. Victoria's persistence was, time and again, a shock to me. She moved into the apartment across the hall from mine. Knowing that I was exhausted from job hunting, she started going to the nearby supermarket every evening to buy groceries. By the time I got home, she would be sitting outside her door, having waited for who knows how long. "Sincere, you're back. I made dinner. I made your favorites: tomato and egg stir-fry, bacon with crown daisy, braised pork belly with preserved vegetables, pork rib stew with green beans, and a cold bitter melon salad. Still warm. I've been reheating it in the microwave every few minutes." I froze for a moment. I suddenly remembered how I used to wait up for her in the living room at night, preparing the hot water for her to soak her feet. It was the same thing. If it got cold, I'd add more hot water. If it was too full, I'd pour some out. We were both tireless in our devotion to each other. Except now that person was Victoria. I looked at her. "I can't eat bitter melon. I've tried, but I just can't. I only ate bitter melon because you used to love it." Victoria stood there, stunned. I sighed. "All those dishes you mentioned, I only started liking them because of you. Whatever you liked, no matter how hard it was for me to stomach, like that damned bitter melon, I would force it down. I wouldn't even chew, just swallow it whole. You never knew, did you? Because whenever we ate, you were always glued to your phone, texting Ethan. You never once saw the look on my face when I was forcing down that bitter melon." Victoria's body began to tremble. After a long moment, her voice, equally shaky, finally came out. "What have I done?" I waved a hand dismissively. "I've already eaten. You go ahead." Before she could say anything else, I opened my door and went inside. I couldn't give her any hope. I was afraid I would soften, that I would go back. Victoria was saying she would change for me now, but if I gave in, what about the next few decades? If I had to go through all that again, I would lose my mind. Love can make people crazy. It can make them lose all reason. That night, Victoria knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw her holding a knife, slowly dragging it across her wrist. I threw the door open and snatched the fruit knife from her hand, just before she could cut herself. Before I could even yell at her, Victoria threw her arms around me, kissing me frantically while trying to pull off her clothes. Enough this time. I was genuinely angry. I shoved her away with force. If the other times had been accidental, this time was deliberate. She fell hard to the ground, her clothes in disarray. After the third year we were together, I was almost always the one to initiate intimacy, and it would always end quickly, amidst her sighs of annoyance and impatience. Her silent judgment and the look in her eyes gave me a complex. The number of times we were intimate dwindled. Sometimes I would use the excuse of going to the bathroom in the middle of the night to take care of myself, rather than face her dismissive attitude again. I never thought that after 5 years, the first time Victoria would initiate would be after we had broken up. I didn't help her up. I just stood there, looking down at her. "Are you still a child?" Victoria looked completely lost. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees, and said through sobs, "Sincere, it's only now, standing in your shoes, giving everything for someone else, that I understand. I know now. It's so hard. It's so hard. I only lasted a little over a month. You did it for 5 years. I closed my eyes. So there it was. Victoria wasn't oblivious. She knew exactly when she had started to grow cold towards me. She knew everything. It all started in our second year together, when Ethan came back into our lives. Can we just talk? Calmly? I promise after we talk I'll never bother you again." Her eyes were filled with a sincerity I couldn't deny. I finally nodded. We sat on the sofa. To my surprise, she took a cigarette from my pack, put it to her lips, and lit it like a seasoned smoker. "When did you pick that up?" "The night we broke up. I went to the convenience store and bought a carton. Remember back in school you told me I was a quick learner? Back then you were so thin you didn't stand out. The other kids in class would just overlook you. We were the top students and I sat right in front of you." I nodded. "I remember. You were brilliant. You were the student council president. So many people had a crush on you. You were perfect, so enthusiastic. Whenever I didn't understand something, I'd ask you, and you'd always have the answer. We gradually became close, discussing textbooks, historical figures. We'd stay after class in the classroom, in the library. You had dimples when you smiled. It was captivating. My feelings for you started with admiration. I knew then that I would never love another girl. I watched you from afar, cherished every moment you shared with me, felt heartbroken by all the other admirers around you. and stayed up all night just from a single smile or a word of concern from you. When everyone else overlooked me, I would look up and find myself reflected in your eyes. You were so brilliant, so full of life. I smiled, reminiscing with her. In that moment, our memories merged. We wandered through the campus of our minds, visiting every spot where we had stayed, laughed, shared, and felt our hearts flutter. The classroom, the cafeteria, the library, the tree-lined path. It was me, she said. I couldn't let it go. The moment Ethan reappeared, my calm heart was stirred. Who could resist? I took your love for granted, acting spoiled and selfish, throwing it all away. Because I knew you would never leave me. I was torn between you and Ethan. But the moment you actually left, I panicked. It was like I grew up overnight. I love you to my very bones. You said that, I said with a small smile. It was all in past. You can't put a broken mirror back together. I still do, I said, looking into Victoria's eyes. I will never love another woman in my life. It wouldn't be fair to whoever I end up marrying. Remember I used to tell you that you had stars in your eyes? They're gone now. I can't find them anymore. I stood up. I opened the door and stood to the side. Vicky, I called my dad today. He asked me when I was going to bring my girlfriend home. Victoria quickly interjected. We can go now. Let's go. Right now. I waved my hand tiredly. Don't you hate meeting parents? In the beginning you said it was too soon. Later you said we weren't stable enough. Then you'd say, can you not be so childish? And now you want to go. I told my dad we broke up. My dad was silent on the phone. I continued, Dad, I'm tired. I'm so tired. My dad said to me, if you're tired, then come home and rest for a while. I didn't say anything else. Victoria turned to leave. This time she faced me slowly, stood on her tiptoes and wrapped her arms around my neck. My dearest boy, let me kiss you one last time, please. Her lips moved towards mine. I didn't pull away, nor did I respond. I just stood there, still, just like she used to do when I kissed her. Years later, at this intersection of time, it was the same kiss, but we could both feel the heart-wrenching pain the other had once felt. Tears streamed down Victoria's face. The moment I closed the door, I sank to the floor, my own face wet with tears. I had told her that a heart is made of flesh and blood, that it can grow cold. My heart had softened. And in that moment, I knew for certain I couldn't give her another chance. I couldn't give myself another chance. I didn't sleep all night. I booked a train ticket home. At 8 the next morning, I checked out of the apartment and turned off my phone. Tiptoeing, I carried my suitcase towards the only safe harbor I had left in my life, a place where I could find peace. This city, perhaps I would never set foot in it again. Whether I was content or filled with regret, it held too many of my memories, happy, sad, and desperate. To make sure she wouldn't be waiting at the door, I deliberately left at a time I knew she would be at work. But when my taxi arrived at the train station, I froze once again. There, at the entrance to the station, I saw Victoria. She was just standing there, calmly. Our eyes met. From the exhaustion in her eyes, I could tell she had been waiting there all night. I had no doubt that if I hadn't shown up today, she would have kept waiting, living, and eating right here. This woman, she would actually do it. I didn't know when you would leave, but I knew you would. If you leave this time, we'll really never see each other again in this lifetime. Sincere, are you really this determined? I nodded, without a word. Let me walk you in. Victoria snatched the suitcase from my hand. We waited in silence in the departure hall. Neither of us broke the silence. When the train arrived, Victoria clumsily carried my heavy suitcase and walked me all the way to the platform. She looked at me and said, Sincere, let's stand back to back and count to 10. In those 10 steps, you'll have enough time to get on the train. When I turn around, if you're still standing there, or if you haven't gotten on the train, let's get back together. We'll get married, leave this city, leave everyone in my life behind. We'll build a life together, get married, have kids. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for the scars on your heart, okay? She was terrified. She was struggling to control the trembling in her voice, the shaking of her body. I asked her, what makes you so sure I'll turn back? Victoria nodded forcefully, her eyes resolute. I believe you will, because I am the woman you have loved most deeply in your entire life. We stood back to back. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 5 steps, 9 steps, 10 steps. Without any hesitation, I boarded the train. I stood on the train and Victoria stood 10 steps away. By the time she turned around, I had already been watching her for a long time. We were only 20 steps apart, but we were separated by mountains and seas. My love is separated by mountains and seas, but the mountains and seas cannot be flattened. There is no path to the mountain's peak, no boat to cross the sea. Victoria covered her mouth with both hands, tears streaming down her face. The light in her eyes was gone. The train began to move. At first she walked alongside it, then she started to jog. Neither of us spoke, we just stared into each other's eyes. Victoria's hand pressed against the window. She fell, got up, fell again. Gradually, her figure disappeared from my sight. All that was left on the window was a faint handprint, like a piece of art pressed onto a fogged-up pane of glass. Goodbye, Vicky, the woman I once loved so deeply. This heart of mine, riddled with 1,000 holes, can never be mended. Goodbye, Sincere. That foolish boy. From now on, let us each run towards our own darkness. I hope that one day we will both have the capacity to love again.